So we just want to discuss 3 reasons why we're continuing to silver stack and look to add to the silver stack going forward. The first reason is just interest rates. We've talked about this a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but just in Canada, we are continuing our historic lows in interest rates. We were as low as 0.25%, so 0.25. Canada got up to 1% on its interest rates, but now we're back down to 0.5%. So you can see the general trend just in Canada, even with the most recent update from this past Wednesday. Canada is not looking to increase interest rates anytime soon. And if you look around the world, I think negative interest rates are kind of baked in at this point too. We're seeing a ton of central banks, whether it be the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, some of the Scandinavian countries like Sweden are going towards negative interest rates. And even an institution like the IMF, they're putting out policy papers that are supporting negative interest rates.
Exactly, and if they haven't already gone into negative interest rates, it seems like there's a lot of discussion where that's on the table.
Right.
I mean, that's sort of what's happening in Canada here right now. We're at 0.5%, but there is some clamor regarding negative interest rates in the future.
And the thing is, too, even in Canada up here this past Wednesday, the Bank of Canada wanted to see some fiscal stimulus, we'll call it, from the federal government with their most recent budget. And even when they got a commitment for $113 billion in deficit spending over the next 5 years, it still did nothing to sort of signal from the Bank of Canada that they were anywhere close to raising interest rates.
Yeah, and in fact, they still kept their, in quote, cautious tone.
Right, and that was like the main, sort of takeaway from the Bank of Canada's decision this Wednesday, that they were going to remain cautious and not really shake up anything too much. But just looking at the general landscape of the central banks around the world, rates are probably going to stay historically low for at least a couple more years, and even then too, they might even go into negative territory. But the whole thing surrounding interest rates as well is, you might wonder, well, how do negative interest rates signal to us to keep silver stacking? And we're more of the we take an economic approach to our silver stacking. I know a lot of people look at it as an investment, or even trying to quickly flip different coins to try to make money. For us, it's not even really a money-making proposition in the short term. What we're doing is really just buying for the long term as an insurance vehicle, just in regards to the whole monetary situation around the world. And I think that one thing that we can say about interest rates is that they're naturally inflationary. Again, what happens is when interest rates are low, what people do is they take on loans that they otherwise wouldn't take on, again, to sort of incentivizes people to get themselves out there buying things that they normally couldn't afford. And what happens when people take these loans, again, too, the money isn't technically printed, but the money is created. Each new loan is actually just, quote, if you could see me, I'm making air quotes, printed out of thin air or created out of thin air. And again, that's new money that gets injected into the monetary system. So every time a new loan is created, again, it increases the monetary base. And you only have to look at the M2 money supply for Canada and even the United States, but just focusing on Canada here.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't seen this, you should definitely take a look, because it's quite fascinating, actually.
Right, yeah, you just want to... The Federal Reserve does a good job of putting out data like this in the United States, but even if you just Google quickly Canada M2 money stock or money supply, you'll find a chart fairly quickly, I'm sure. But if you look at the M2 chart, from about 2007 to this year, 2016, the entire money supply of Canada has roughly doubled. It's gone from about 700 million in 2007, maybe a little bit 2006, up to $1.4 trillion now. So even with just in the last 9 years, the entire government or the entire monetary supply has gone up the same amount as since 1867. So from 1867 to 2007, what's that quick math in our heads? I guess 140 years, or 100 and... what are we at?
Yeah,
I think of 140 is good. We're safe as we quickly do the math in our heads. But 140 years, the country created about $800 million, or $1 billion, excuse me, and then now it's already up to 1.4 just in the last 1.4 trillion in the last 9 years. So again, we've seen a huge increase just in the monetary stock. And again, if you look at how much debt, and that'll be our topic number 2, again, the total debt of just the governments, the provincial and the federal, is about $1.3 trillion. So to pay off even the amount of debt, you can't even use all of the money that's in creation at this point.
Yeah, there's not enough.
No, there's not enough to pay off all the debts. Even if you take every dollar that's in the system for Canada, you still can't pay off that debt. So we think that interest rates are going to remain low for that reason. Again, they want to most likely inflate, and lower interest rates definitely keeps that interest going. As long as interest rates are lower, then again, it's a lot more feasible to inflate the currency. So interest rates is probably, I would say it's right up there as the number one signal to us to keep silver stacking.
Yeah, and the explanation we just sort of gave is one of the key reasons why we focus on interest rates so much.
Right.
I mean, it's funny, maybe not every show, but a lot of the times interest rates are something that we're talking about. And I know my brother has created quite a few videos discussing interest rates in Canada and around the world. And I think now this gives pretty good reason why we focus on that so much.
Yeah,
and I was pretty shocked to see just how much the money supply doubled in such a short time.
Exactly. Yeah, since the 2008 crash, again, we've seen almost a doubling in the whole entire Canadian monetary supply.